Hey everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. I had to try to remember my own name for a second. But we are going to get started officially here in a little bit. I'm trying to make sure my microphone is in frame and such. We are going to be discussing Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, number 4. Getting back into the comics. We are severely behind on these, but we're going to get back into it. And this issue is a good one, in my opinion. I'll be curious to hear what Morgan says about it and what everybody in the chat says about it. But I enjoyed this one. So spoiler alert for my thoughts. Okay, I see Morgan. Morgan, give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull you in just so that we have all of our ducks in a row. Are you there?
Hey, hello. How are you?
Good. Do you have
I am trying to find the issue again so I can reference it. But Comixology / Amazon / whatever this is not making it easy because I can't see the issue numbers on any of these. Not even when I scroll over them.
I think you can sort by list, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's try a list.
Or like a view.
The list is helping.
View, if you select view and it shows grid and list. I don't know if that'll help.
Yeah. No, this is a terrible.
I think I'm on grid. I think that's helpful to see.
The list was helpful because like when I could just see the covers, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Memorize what the cover looks like?
I don't want to belabor the complaining of, belabor, that's not the word. I don't want to continue the complaining about the new Comixology, Amazon, whatever it is. But what I miss, and going back through this issue that we're going to talk about, I severely miss so they have a guide view in this new one, but the old one with the guide view would really expand it and make it so it was really easy to read. And it still sort of is on like the mobile app, the phone app. But when you do it on the web browser, it is so unhelpful. It's not at all a zooming in to the panel. It just kind of isolates the panel, but it doesn't zoom in and make it bigger. I just don't like it. It's not helpful in any way.
It's not a good experience.
No. It makes it very difficult to read sometimes. So I'm basically just reading everything on my phone now because the web browser is just completely pointless. So, okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Are we having some feline activity?
Yeah, I was hearing some meowing and there was definitely like a thump, suspicious sounding thump. I'm just trying to make sure everyone's okay. Guys, they seem fine.
Okay,
I'm sure they're fine.
All right. Well, do you have everything that you need before we get started?
I hope so.
Okay. Well, we'll officially go ahead and get started then.
Leslalar's downfall is just that eyebrow twitch that she can't help doing. Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse
what
me?
Year is it?
How old am I? This is how the podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You've got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! ! Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth is Benoist, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yes! Welcome to Supergirl Radio of Tomorrow, your source for Tom King's comic run on Supergirl titled Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired and ready to discuss and review Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow number 4, which was written by Tom King, penciled and inked by Bilquis Evely, and colored by Mateus Lopez. And we'll definitely have to have them on the podcast to get them to correctly pronounce it, because I always feel like I'm not pronouncing their names correctly, and I always feel so bad about it. So maybe in the future we'll get someone to officially pronounce it for us. So we are going to discuss that, but before we do that, we need to get to
the news.
According to DCComics.com, actress Nicole Maines is bringing the character of Nia Nal and her superhero alter ego Dreamer to the pages of Superman, Son of Kal-El. Maines will be co-writing Superman, Son of Kal-El number 13 with series writer Tom Taylor. I'm so excited to work with Nicole Maines to bring Dreamer from the screen to the pages of Superman, Son of Kal-El, and to the DC Comics universe, said Tom Taylor. I want to thank all the people at DC who have championed Dreamer and who recognize the importance of this powerful trans superhero in this time. John Kent and Nia Nal are two characters that have a lot in common, both as superheroes with the weight of the world on their shoulders and as young people with impossibly big shoes to fill, said Nicole Maines. Weaving their stories together for Superman, Son of Kal-El with Tom was a complete pleasure, and there is only a little pun intended when I say that Superman and Dreamer make for a brilliant new dream team.
No, that was intended.
Do. It's the dramatic DC Universe debut of Dreamer. When every hero on Earth is threatened by Henry Bendix's machinations. Whoo, they're testing me.
I made you read it because you're a better reader than me.
It's a race against time. Not today. It's a race against time for Dreamer to warn Superman before it happens. But will this mysterious new ally's premonition become a nightmare for Jonathan Kent? Superman, Son of Kal-El number 13 will be available at local comic shops on July 12th. 2022. The issue will feature a main cover by Travis Moore and a 125 variant cover.
Yeah, I think the important thing is it's a variant cover
by Clayton Henry. Whatever that means, if you guys know, then that's what it is. And then making his DC debut as A.L. Kaplan, who created an open variant featuring Dreamer on the back of John Kent.
So, Morgan, what do you think about this? We read a Dreamer story in DC Pride sometime back in the past. I can't remember exactly when that was.
At some point.
but now we're getting an official. I don't know. I thought that was the official debut of Dreamer in DC Comics, but they're saying this is the. I guess this is the first official day
continuity.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But I don't know. I kind of felt like the other one was like Dreamer's introduction to the comics. But I guess I'm just being really technical about it. What do you think about this news?
I'm definitely excited. I like the idea of her popping up in like an ongoing story and getting to kind of do some super heroics. The Pride issue that we read, she was kind of on her own and just kind of doing her own thing. So it's going to be nice to see her, interacting with some of the other characters. It's probably just going to be Jonathan Kent, honestly. But it's going to be nice to see her, kind of doing some superhero-y things and using her dream powers to let him know about some of the stuff that's happening. I think that's going to be it's going to be fun. And it's also nice that they're pairing Nicole up with a comics writer who's been on the book for a while. I think that's going to be like really valuable. I think it sounds like she, from everything we've read, is really excited about Dreamer, not just Dreamer, but like, getting in there and doing some comics writing. So it'll probably be like a cool experience to learn from somebody who does it all the time.
Yeah, I think that would probably be something that I would hope for, just because the Dreamer story that we read in DC Pride, it was okay in my opinion, but I was not wowed by it. So hopefully Nicole will get another chance to kind of go at it in terms of how to write for Dreamer, how to make some of those dream powers make sense on the page, and make that very clear. And I think Nicole is always very excited about the comics and the world of DC, so I'm excited that Nicole has another chance, another go at it. I'm just hoping that it is maybe a little, I don't want to say better written, but kind of better written. But to be fair, Nicole only had like 6 pages or something in that story. Like, it wasn't a very long story.
And
So,
yeah, it's hard to write something when you have so few pages, and sometimes you want to be like, oh, I want like a big panel with the art, and then you're like, wait, so now I'm giving up the story
Yeah.
to do that. So yeah, comics is a tough medium. I have like a ton of respect now for people who do it all the time, and it's not easy. So I think, that was her first comic story, so I'm excited to see what her second one looks like.
I will say the art does look really good.
It does. It looks nice.
I think the covers that I think these are all covers that they put out from DCComics.com. All the covers look really like visually interesting and dynamic in terms of color and visuals. So I am curious about that, because the art does look really good. I have 2 things that I'm trying to like get over in terms of this. One is I'm glad for the character of Nia Nal and for Dreamer and for Nicole Maines as the actress who performed the character. I just feel like a lot of what's come after the show has, like, once the show ended, it's like Lena Luthor's in a comic and Dreamer's getting a comic again. And I don't know. I feel like we've talked about the legacy of Supergirl on the podcast before, and I feel like sometimes the legacy of the show is everything but Supergirl. And so I'm trying to like get over that personal struggle, I guess, for myself, because I felt like the show did that all the time, where it sort of pushed Supergirl out of the way and elevated all the other characters, which is fine, but not all the time. So I'm trying to get over that hump of it. And I also hope that this appearance for Dreamer doesn't kind of pigeon the character in the transgender hole, because I feel like that could limit the character possibilities a little bit, or at least with the stories that are being told. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I hope it's not just like all about, like, I want Dreamer to have a well-rounded characterization of not just being this one thing. So I hope that's not what it is. I hope Dreamer's allowed to kind of grow and become more than that, even though I know that's important to the character and that's important to Nicole and for DC Comics and for Tom Taylor. But I just hope that like the character gets to, be a superhero and not just one thing. So I don't know. I'm interested to see where they go with it and what kind of story they tell. I just hope that Dreamer at least gets more opportunities to to do big things. If they're going to use Dreamer, I hope that the character is respected.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they did a really good job with that on the TV show, and I have faith because Nicole's involved and she loves Dreamer, and I think that Dreamer being a trans superhero is a big part of her identity, but it's not all there is to Dreamer. There's so much more. There's so many dream puns.
That's what I'm trying to say, and I don't know if I communicated that well, but that's what I'm hoping for.
I totally understand what you're saying about, like, we've seen Lena now and we've seen Dreamer, and like, where is Supergirl? from the show as a legacy character from the show, but I do think in some ways it is cool that Dreamer is one of the legacies from the Supergirl TV show, because Supergirl existed before the TV show and she'll exist after. But Dreamer didn't exist before the show, so it is cool to see her pop up in the comic books and have a role, and it's gratifying to see that Nicole's involved, because I think, if there's anybody who really loves that character, it's Nicole, and as we know, she knows the comics really well. So I think it's probably a really exciting prospect for her to actually be able to write something for Dreamer in the actual DC continuity, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it. I think that they hopefully are going to do a good job. Full admission, I have not been reading this title because I'm super behind on comics in general.
On everything, on life mostly.
Yeah. So I'm not going to understand at all what's happening when I read it, but I'm definitely excited to see what it's like.
Yeah, and the idea that Dreamer is now going to be in the main DC Comics continuity, I have a lot of questions, because I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with like Legion of Superheroes stuff, so I don't know if Dream Girl is doing things in the comics. Are they? They're probably not going to explain how that connects to Dreamer. Probably not.
They're probably just going to be like, it's timey-wimey.
Yeah, so I have a lot of questions, because that was never fully explained on the show, just kind of mentioned in passing. So I was always curious about that, but I doubt that will ever get explained. But anyway, so I would be curious if they ever, maybe, I don't know. I think did we talk with Nicole about having Dreamer meet Dream Girl in some kind of timey-wimey situation?
I feel like we might have. I know that she knew a lot about Dream Girl, and did she dress up like her for like Halloween?
She did, and
it was a good
and
costume.
portrayed Dream Girl perfectly. I thought really captured the essence of the character. So I was actually kind of sad that they never did that on the show, but not my series.
I feel like it's comics, and you can just kind of do whatever you want, and then you can just like make up a doodad or a doohickey that explains it all. It's like, well, by touching this stone we found on the ground, the stone of time doesn't matter. We we allowed them to meet, and you know what? If I've learned anything from Supergirl, from Crisis, from my boy Amadeus, it's that continuity doesn't really matter if you don't believe in it.
Well, that's what I would do if I was introducing Dreamer into the continuity that would possibly intersect with Dream Girl. I would actually have them meet. That's what I would do.
That would be really cool.
If anyone cared what I thought about a story, I think that would be really interesting. But I guess we'll have to find out come July 12th is when that issue is coming out. So I guess we'll cover that. I don't know if Dreamer is just going to be in the one issue, or if it's going to be like an ongoing thing. I don't know, but we'll have to check that out and support your local comic shops if you can. All right. Well, I guess we should get talking about the comic book we gathered to discuss, which is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #4. The description for this issue reads, quote, Supergirl sets her sights on the Brigands, a group of dastardly nomads hell-bent on slaughtering all they come across. Now she must follow their path of destruction to find the fugitive they've been hiding, who set her on this intergalactic journey in the first place! Exclamation point, unquote. All right, so
exciting.
So Morgan, what did you think about this story? Or should I discuss my thoughts? Do you need to take care of any cat business?
Oh, no, they're just pushing a Tupperware that they've knocked off the counter around the kitchen floor. And you know what? Let them have it. Let them have it. I don't need it. They're having fun. They're not trying to kill each other. I'm just going to let them have this moment of joy.
I mean, if we need to, I can just talk about my thoughts about the issue, and you can go back.
Fine.
This is a new experience, because the lab cats have not been around for a little while.
Yeah, they've been really sleepy. Their like night drugs have been working on them for the most part. But tonight it seemingly didn't work. They knocked Tupperware off the counter. Now they're just pushing it around my kitchen. I just hear it on its incredible journey. It's probably the end of the road for that piece of Tupperware, but it is now a cat toy. So that's important.
Well, if at any point you need to attend to that matter, just let me know.
I will.
Okay. All right. So in that case, what did you think about this story in issue number 4?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was like, I keep saying this for some of because the issue before was also a little like dark and a little bit brutal. But this one was also brutal. She just kind of goes from world to world, and every world she's kind of too late to catch them. And she instead has to see everything that happened before they got there. So like a lot of death and a lot of destruction, and it really wears on her as the issue goes along, and it really like wears her down, and it really is sort of a cross that she has to bear. And I think it's really tough to see her in that position, because we like to see her, saving the day, and she it's a whole issue of her being too late to save the day, basically.
Yeah, she even has to watch it on a videotape or something on one of the planets.
A ye old VHS.
They record everything that happens. What planet was that? Tyrcom. A lot of these planet names have a lot of like triple letters and stuff. So it's like TYRRRCOOMN. So I guess that's Tyrcom. So yes, she's having to watch it after the fact that she's and even some where she's trying to prepare some of these alien civilizations for a possible brigand attack. So she's either too early before it happens, or she comes late after it's happened and the devastation has already occurred. So it is difficult for Supergirl, because I think it does mount on her as it progresses. But for a little while, I think she does pretty well on being able. What I like about this issue is that she is shown multiple times to take care of these people, and I really liked that. There's a sweet little set of panels at the beginning where she picks up a little baby who's been abandoned, I guess, by a family member who's presumably dead from an attack, and she tells the baby, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. And I really like that. And then there's a reveal where a couple of set of panels where she's feeding somebody in a hospital bed. And so I really like those moments of Supergirl taking care of people. She even uses her super speed to help dig graves for this local alien who has lost a daughter and is taking care of his community by burying all the dead, and she does it so quickly. And I like that he calls her neighbor. He considers her neighbor after that. And so I think for the most part during the issue, I think Supergirl sort of is doing what she can to help everyone and reach out to these people in need, but it does sort of build up into her. And I want to clarify, make sure I was reading this correctly. She gets so bogged down with the weight of what's going on, she flies into the sun. Is that how you read that?
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Okay. Because that's kind of a unique thing for Supergirl to do. I guess it's because maybe she needed to, I guess she felt like that would give her more power to be able to get through her pain and grief, I guess.
Yeah, I've never seen. I mean, we know that the yellow sun powers up the super friends, the super people,
the super family.
Yeah,
the Superman family.
But I've never seen anything that I've read. Have I ever seen them be like straight into the sun? So that was new to me. I was like, is that not going to be a issue for her?
I think I've seen it a couple of times where they did it to revive themselves. I think it's usually with Superman. I feel like Smallville did that.
Maybe
at the end of what season was that? At the beginning of season 8, I think the Martian Manhunter has to fly Clark into the sun to revive him.
Oh, you might be right. That
Is that
sounds
season
familiar.
is that season 8? I can't remember.
It was one of the
Um,
later ones for
I
sure.
I feel like it was season 8 because I wanna say that was the same episode where they introduced Tess Mercer, but I can't remember, it's been such a long time ago. Anyway, the idea that she goes in there to regain some super abilities, I would understand, but this time around, she does it to kind of, I don't know if she goes in there to scream it out or if she, goes in there because she feels weak. I don't know. But I did think that that was a really, interesting choice to have Supergirl do that because it comes right on the heels of her witnessing the devastation of a monastery, sort of a sort of an alien monastery on this one planet, and she just can't take it, and so that's why she flies into the sun. So I thought that was a really interesting choice because you don't get to see that much with Supergirl.
No, definitely not. And I was, when she flew away, I was like, oh, she's gonna fly away and like, feel her feelings. But I didn't expect her to feel her feelings into the sun. Like I was like, whoa, she's really upset about what's happening. And I thought that was a really interesting character choice for Supergirl to have her go all the way into the sun that far away to kind of break down. And I think we saw it throughout the issue where she's really strong throughout the whole issue, and then she finally breaks down after having seen however many planets destroyed at this point and all these people who've been hurt or killed. And it's like, at some point everybody gets to their breaking point, and for Supergirl, she's Supergirl, her breaking point is like straight into the sun.
Yeah. Mark says in the chat, I think she did it because it was the only place where she could safely scream. And I think that's a really good point because if Supergirl screamed, it would be very loud and probably cause some damage. So, so if she screamed into the sun, it probably wouldn't have hurt anybody. So that's a good point. Let's see what else happened in the issue. I think we covered a lot of it, but what were your thoughts on I guess we could talk a little bit about Supergirl and Ruthie.
Ruthie? Yeah,
Yes.
right.
I was like, do we decide Ruthie? So Supergirl and Ruthie are having debates or little squabbles throughout the issue about whether or not that Supergirl wants Ruthie to continue on the journey. I was curious about what you thought about that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I like the way that Supergirl tries to protect Ruthie throughout the issue. She won't let her into the one planet that has everything recorded on that VHS. She was like, "No, I have to go look at it, but you don't want to see it."
Yeah, she's just a kid still. Yeah.
Yeah. She really does see Ruthie as a kid, even though Ruthie has gone on this great quest for vengeance, and Ruthie is kind of the one who got her roped into this whole situation. But Supergirl still sees her as a kid, as somebody who's really young. And I think at the end of the issue, she tries to leave Ruthie behind. She keeps saying a couple of times throughout the issue, like, this is my problem. It doesn't have to be your problem. Like, you can go home. And no matter how many times Ruthie is like, this is my quest for vengeance that you're just kind of tagging along on. And I like at the end of the issue where Ruthie asks her, like, well, how old were you, like, the first time that you saw, suffering or you saw terror? And Supergirl has to admit that she was really young too.
Yeah.
And Ruthie's like, well, then why is it different for me? Like, why am I not allowed to go along on this journey with you? If you also, if you also experienced this when you were my age. And I think that kind of explains why Supergirl is trying to be protective, is because she experienced it too. And when she was young, and she wants to protect Ruthie from like the bad things that she's had to experience. But I think at the end, you kind of see that it's nice for Supergirl to have somebody else with her. It's nice to not be alone on the journey and to have somebody else to kind of carry the load of going to all these places and seeing all these things that are, are tough to deal with. And I think that Ruthie being there has actually helped Supergirl, and she kind of gives in, and she doesn't say anything. She doesn't tell Ruthie like, okay, it's fine that you come with me. She just kind of just like lets her hop on board basically, and then flies off to the next world.
Yeah, speaking of Supergirl sort of having to carry the load, one of my favorite things about this issue, I really loved this issue. I'm just going to flat out say it. Overall thoughts early, but I love this issue, and I really especially loved the ending where Ruthie says, quote, "Instead of answering, she bent down and I put my weight on her," unquote. And I thought that was a nice way to show that Supergirl was literally and metaphorically carrying Ruthie's burdens. Like this, Supergirl is going after Krim because Krim shot her dog. That's true. Uh, and it does sound like Crypto could still be alive in this issue. She says she wants to save her dog. So I don't think we can count Crypto out for the count as of this issue. But she's in it to save Crypto, but I think on a larger point, she's trying to help this young girl who lost her father. And I just when I first read that that bit about and I put my weight on her, I was just like, oh, that is so good, because she's literally carrying Ruthie, but she's also metaphorically carrying her burdens for her. Like she's doing this because she wants to help Ruthie, and she's been helping all of these people throughout the issue, and she hears all of their stories, and she even with the cemetery and the grave site, she even goes to find the remains of the local alien's daughter, like reunites that I guess man, I don't know what he would be called on that planet, but because it's not necessarily a person,
just like a little guy.
Yeah. So the guy on this planet who unfortunately lost his daughter was looking for the daughter's remains, and Supergirl finds him. And even though the daughter was murdered, at least Supergirl was able to reunite that man and his daughter in death, I guess, if you were to say that. But I thought it was really nice that throughout the entire episode, the entire issue, Supergirl has been carrying everyone's weight for them, and I thought that was a really cool way to end the story, because I think that's why I think it makes sense that Supergirl would fly into the sun and have that moment for herself where she could scream and release that, because nobody else can really carry Supergirl's burdens. Like I don't know that anybody else could do that for Kara. So I think she probably would realistically need that that ability to release those frustrations or that anger or that sadness. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, and I really liked how every time that they went to a different location, the art, like the color scheme changed. Not the art so much, but in some cases the art even. But the color scheme changed, kind of like, because we went to so many different places in this issue, it gave each individual place like a strong sense of location. Like I felt like, okay, now I'm in a different place. Now I'm in a different place, just from the use of the colors, which is, I mean, I think overall in this whole book, the art has been beautiful, and the colors especially have been really beautiful. And I like that, we go to like places where the color scheme is kind of dark and gold, and we go to places where the color scheme is neon.
Neon green.
I was like, what's happening now? And you can kind of tell that you're in different places, you're with different people, just from the colors, not anything from the story. Like I could just tell I was in different places because of the colors, or because of the art style in these different locations. So I thought that was a really cool way of like visually telling the story of like jumping from place to place and from planet to planet, because I could tell that visually at a glance. And I think that that's one of the strengths of comics as like a visual medium, is being able to use color or use style, or to tell that story in addition to to the text or what you're reading.
Is everything okay?
I think they're going after like another Tupperware container. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
That's their joy tonight, and I'm not going to take that away from them.
I heard something rattle, so I wanted just to make sure. But I agree with you. I think it was nice that the art helped tell me, the reader, where I was, because it was difficult to keep up with all these new planet names. When I was making notes, I was trying to figure out where I was here and what's special about this planet and why did they go here. And so the art does help translate that a little bit so that it's not so much words doing all the work, because it's just so much to keep up with. So the art did a good job with that. So I guess while we're here, Morgan, did you have any other favorite pages or panels that you wanted to talk about?
Besides everything,
Besides everything, yes.
The through line on this run for me so far has been not just that I'm enjoying it, but that the art is so beautiful. And honestly, everything kind of looks like a painting that I would actually like put on my wall. Like that's how
Yes.
beautiful, like the art and the colors, and there's always like this sense of motion to all the panels, even if it's just they're showing you a town. There is like, from high above, there's this sense of motion, there's this sense of life. Just in the art. I think the artist Bilquis, I can't remember their last name.
Bilquis Evely.
Yeah, they are incredible. Just such a strong artist, and I'm just really loving all of the art in this. I think I really love page I think it's page 24. It's right at the end when they're on the planet with like the blue sky and
Oh yeah.
the really red, I don't know if it's a sun or a moon that's kind of in the sky with the like all the purple, and Supergirl and Ruthie on the top of this like hill, kind of this kind of outcropping, and it's so pretty, that panel, and I just think it kind of shows like how kind of alone they feel. Whatever happened on this planet was so sad that like Ruthie doesn't even want to talk about it. And the idea, them being up high and kind of looking out over the landscape, but also being really removed from it, I think you really get that in the art.
Yeah, they're so small when this whole story is kind of a big journey. They're so small up there at the top. Yeah, I think that is a really cool. All those like landscape pages are really nice looking to me. Like I'm thinking of page 21 when they go to the monks of Ekvik. That's beautiful to me. The way the yellows and the blues are mixed together. I thought that really gave a sense, because the page is talking about how I guess the monks there are so peaceful, and so the yellows and the blues conveyed to me, at least, a peaceful, calming feeling. So I really liked that. Let's see. For me, there was also, I'm trying to get back to some of the things that I wanted to mention. So on page 9, when Supergirl and Ruthie go to find this alien who's digging all these graves for all the people who have been lost in his community, I thought it was interesting that the graves have grave markers that are sort of like what we would think of like graves that have a cross as a marker, but instead of like a Christian cross, it's some sort of other like stick with like two sort of C's turned on each other.
It kind of looks like a trident with like a crescent moon over top of it. It's really neat.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, because when I first saw the panel of the local alien actually digging, I was like, is that supposed to be a cross? And so then I looked at it a little closer. So I guess, I don't know what that means. Maybe it's some sort of, special significance to the people of that community. So I just thought that was interesting that here in the panels, they had something akin to that. So I thought that was really interesting. I also liked on page 8 the silhouette of Krem killing Flarg, I think his name was.
Oh yeah.
I think silhouette is such a good way to show something so vicious and violent, because you don't actually get to see it but it does show you what happens. But I appreciate not having to show me that. I like the idea that you're not going to be very gruesome in the drawing of that. And so I really appreciate that. And I think it's much more dramatic and effective that way. So I like that.
I agree.
The only other thing I wanted to mention was how effective I thought the panels, I guess, on page 6 were, because when I first read it, I was like, why are they showing me these close-ups of Supergirl with a spoon with some food on it? Like, what is the purpose of this? And as I progressed through, because I usually like to read it in the guided view, and so I only usually get to see one panel at a time. And then when I got to the panel where she was actually feeding this poor alien who's been attacked and is in the hospital bed, that was really it was moving to me, that to see it being revealed that that's what Supergirl was doing, was feeding somebody who had been hurt and injured. And so I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. This is why we're seeing these seemingly random close-ups of Supergirl with a spoon. So I really enjoyed all of that. So I thought the art was really great.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked that segment of the story. I also really loved the segment where she helps dig the graves really fast, and the way that they show that visually with like all of the crisscrosses of the red and the blue. I thought that was really cool. You don't really see it happen, but you see all the crisscrosses because Ruthie says she didn't see it happen. It just happened so fast. And I think the character in that segment really made me feel. They really made me feel for that character who's just been out there all day digging these graves, so that the people, the dead from the planet, don't have to go into a mass grave, and this person lost their daughter too, which is extra sad. And they're kind of matter of fact about it. They're like, this is what I have to do. This is like what's being part of a community is like. But when Supergirl extends that kindness and helps out, the little creature, like the tears come into his eyes. And I think that's, it really helped me connect with that character, even though that character is only on like 3 pages. But I think that the economy of storytelling in this issue was really good in terms of like, we spend maybe a max of 3 pages in each location, but I still felt for all of the struggles that all of these people were going through on these different planets, including the planet where Supergirl's kind of goading this giant creature, and you're like, what is happening? I can't imagine what's happening. And it's she's basically trying to give this person the permission to break down and cry and feel their feelings, which the issue kind of circles back around on that, and it gives Supergirl that same moment when she goes and flies into the sun. So I just thought there were so many good moments in this issue, considering that like we were basically all over the place. We never stayed in anywhere like maybe more longer than like 2 or 3 pages, and yet like I still ended up really feeling for all of the people that she encounters in her travels.
Yeah, I really liked the stuff with the local, I'm just gonna call him the local alien who was digging the graves, because I could see if I was in his place, I could potentially be offended at Supergirl like coming in and just doing my job really quickly and showing off and making me feel like crap because I couldn't do it. So I could see that being the case, but he's actually really gracious to her, and she's an outsider. She's not part of their community, but he ends up calling her neighbor because she did something to help them and to help him, and to do something that was going to benefit them and pay respect to all the people that they had lost. And so I thought it was nice that he didn't lean into being agitated by her presence, but he accepted her help and appreciated what she did for them. So I thought that was really sweet. Okay. Everything okay. I keep hearing
I'm
little
sure
sounds.
it's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
If something starts to smell like smoke and they set something on fire, please let me know.
I'm just hoping for the best at this point. Just hoping for the best.
Okay, well, I guess overall thoughts on this one, Morgan. What did you think about this issue?
Yeah, I really liked this issue. I thought it was really well done. I thought even though they didn't spend a lot of time in every single location, like the previous issue where they spent the entire time on that one planet and kind of uncovered a secret, here they just went from planet to planet. But I thought that each individual area they kind of touched on and made me really feel for the characters in that area. Here comes Beaker. He's tired of playing with the Tupperware. He's tired of it. And so now he must have his fame and his fortune. Right, Beaker? Right, bud? Do you want to get down? This is his new thing. He likes to do this while I'm on meetings at work too. Don't you? No, not the cord. Okay. Well, now you've lost the ability. You've lost the ability and you must go now.
For the audio listener, Beaker had a cord just in his mouth.
It was the headphone cord, of course. It was the headphone cord. He spent the entire time we've been on this podcast, both of them, pushing a couple of Tupperwares across the kitchen floor. When they got tired of the first Tupperware, it was a big Tupperware too. It's like this big, and Bunsen had it in his mouth at a couple points. I was just like, what is happening? And then they found another second Tupperware on top of which I had on top of the microwave. That wasn't acceptable. They got up on top of the microwave. They batted it off onto the counter, batted it off onto the floor. And then they were like fighting over who got to play with it first. There's a lot of things happening in the kitchen.
Do you think they'll take it back up on top of the microwave and
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna return it. The thing with them, the thing with these cats is that like they make the messes, but do they ever clean them up? No,
they're not gonna return their toys.
They're not like, no, I'm done with it now. I'll put it away.
Well, I'm glad we got to see Beaker. That was a treat. And I'm glad he did not gnaw and chew up your headphone cord. That's
I'm glad about that as well.
Well, I really love this issue. I think these issues are for me anyway, the way that Tom King is writing these through the eyes of Ruthie, I really appreciate because he's able to communicate, I think, what Tom, maybe I'm reading into Tom's thoughts. I shouldn't assume things about his thoughts about Supergirl, but I'm just going to assume based on the way he's writing about Supergirl that these are actually Tom King's thoughts. But I think that the way he has Ruthie talking about her shows a love for the character, and it makes me love the character even more because of the way that Ruthie talks about her. When Supergirl is sort of shooting up and going into the sun, Ruthie says things like this. She calls her the greatest warrior in the history of this August reality we call home. She says Supergirl's power was not one of action, but one of restraint, endurance, and passion. That she slowed herself to walk by your side. She put away her superpowers so that she could actually walk alongside you. I thought that was a really moving thing that she said about Supergirl. And the last thing that I wanted to mention was that Ruthie said every moment of every day, Supergirl suppressed the forces, churning inside her. So I really appreciated that because it showed that Supergirl was not just about being a superpowered hero. She did all of the superpowered things to help those people, but she also met people where they were and was able to kind of manipulate her abilities so that she could walk us alongside these people and hear their stories and help them out. And I just really love that about this issue and this story in particular. Is I think it's showing why Supergirl is such a great character, even if it's through the eyes of Ruthie. I think she's a good everyman sort of character to be able to communicate those things about Supergirl. All right. Well, I guess that is going to do it for our thoughts on Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #4. If you haven't bought it yet, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #4 is available at your local comic book store. Highly recommend you go check that out if you have one. But if you don't, you can catch it on Amazon, Kindle, Apple, iBooks, Barnes & Noble, Nook, Comixology, or Amazon, whatever that means. Google Books and Read DC. So that is where you can find it. And hopefully your Comixology experience will be better than our Comixology experience.
I'm getting the hang of it, kind of.
Kind of. I'm still not loving it, but I at least can maneuver inside of it now, which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah, I have to go searching for it every single time, and that's fun. But once I find it, it's kind of okay. So we actually have a piece of listener feedback. So we have an email from Mark, who writes, "The way Kara takes in all this depravity to the point that even she can't handle it anymore, and then essentially decides it's Girl of Steel time, where the brigands are concerned, was just so well done, and it really struck me when I first read it. On the page, I'm not sure which one, DC Universe Infinite isn't giving me numbers, where Supergirl says she's going to scream, and that if she does it on that planet, everything that's left will break. I think she means everything on the planet, not just that ruin they're in. Why else would she wait until she's in the middle of the sun to let it all out?"
Okay, I hate to interrupt the email, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, Morgan. So when Supergirl talks about everything that's left will break, I sort of read that as her talking about her heart, that she was like having a heartbreak, like everything emotionally was breaking for her. Her heart was broken. So I don't know if anybody else.
I like that reading. I read it as like the actual temple that they were in. So it's interesting that we all had, like, the three of us had different reads on that. So you read it from like more of the emotional place. I read it from like this physical location that they're actually in. And Mark thought the whole planet she might destroy with her, her heartbreak. So I think
maybe it's all of it. Maybe it's all of them.
It could be. It could be all three. I mean, mine is kind of involved in Mark's.
Yeah, that's true.
Only that ruin will stand. And then, so just before that, when they witnessed the stoning of the brigand, her really cold "did you?" It's like a not humorous version of when Zachary Levi tells the robbers, "You're dead," in Shazam. After all she read of their barbarism, all she's seen of the ruination they left behind, she's fresh out of help, hope, and compassion for the brigands. She's got nothing left for them but justice.
So I have a question for you about that. So we see Mark's reading of it. He shared that with us. What were your thoughts about Supergirl not saving the brigand, who I guess was being stoned to death? Is that how you saw that?
Way? Yeah, it seemed that way. I thought that was kind of a harsh turn for Supergirl. She's usually, she's usually helping people even if they don't deserve it. No, not now.
He can't trying to share some thoughts.
He can't let it go. He was also shocked by that turn of events for Supergirl, as you could clearly see. No, but I mean, I think we spent the entire issue seeing what bad people they are, and so I could understand it. I think when you get desensitized the way that they were after like planet after planet after planet of suffering, how Mark described it, like, as, are you serious? Now the tail was right across the camera. It's going great tonight. But yeah, he described it as justice, and I think I kind of agree. It's it's mob justice, so that's not the best. But it was really hard to sympathize with the brigand, especially, they show him there going like, it was fun, and we've just seen all the destruction, all the lives that were ruined. So I can understand why Supergirl would have a hard time caring or wanting to, like, get in the middle of what was happening.
How do we know they didn't have some sort of court trial.
They might have had a court trial. We don't know. Yeah, that might have been the judgment that they passed after a court trial. It might have been like a death sentence.
And even if they hadn't, I think in some read you could probably, or I would probably argue that Supergirl was just not intervening in what that community wanted to do. I think there is an element where I think I, as a fan, would want Supergirl to save someone from being killed, but that, I guess, is justice for that character. And so who is she to stop that? If that community wanted to use that as justice for what happened to presumably a terrible attack had gone on that planet, I mean, who is she to step in and say, no, you shouldn't do that? So I don't know. That there's two sides of that coin and two sides of that argument, but I would like to think that they held a fair and speedy trial, and he was judged by his peers of some kind, and they decided that this was the best punishment for his crimes.
Yeah, that one was a little tough for me because I was like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about Supergirl just like standing and watching it happen. But I think what you said is very true, which is like she was in a different community and that was how they had chosen to deal with it. And like, who is she to come on some other planet and be like, no, it should be this way. So I think, yeah, I can definitely see that perspective of the scene as well, where she's like, maybe it's not my place to intervene in this community's decision.
Yeah, but it was tough to watch, but
I was like, oh,
it was pretty cold, but I think there are ways that you can read that sort of make sense of it. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for our discussion of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow number 4. And I think we are going to now get to some Supergirl Radio and some DC TV plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Superman and Lois Radio, the Flash Podcast, and Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, Black Lightning Podcast, Batwoman Podcast 2, and Titans and Doom Patrol Podcast just for you. Justice League Dark Podcast, Green Lantern Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Strange Adventures Podcast, and finally my favorite of the bunch, DC TV After Dark, where you're allowed to say f***.
And since we talked about comics this week, we have some Krypton, wow, words, related designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store.
Yeah, so I found, I put some Krypton stuff in there, and then we also had some Big Belly Burger stuff that I added to the store. So if you're interested in that, I put some new designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. I was initially going to just do a Krypton set of things to talk about, but then I saw a pretty nice looking Big Belly Burger design, so I thought I could promote that as well. So lots of cool stuff in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. Hopefully in the future, maybe some Witch for Summer ! Designs.
Witch for Summer.
Morgan and I have been sort of passing ideas around. I've made some new ones that I need to pass by. See what you think. But yeah, so hopefully we'll have a Witch for Summer collection as we move forward. So hopefully new things will be continuing to be added to the DCTV Podcast T Public Store. We would also like to thank our legion of super sponsors. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Ermgard, Miriam, Nicole, Lizeth, Faith, Brian, and Ethan. If you would like to become a super sponsor, we have 4 monthly levels that you can find at patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. And if you would like to keep up with me, you can find me on the social media platform Vero at Derby Kid, where I share what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, occasionally what I'm reading. Usually I start a book, so you'll see when I start a book, but you probably won't ever see me finish one. But you'll at least know which one I started. I'm also on Instagram at The Derby Kid, where I share the occasional picture and or video over there. And I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/duckmilkprod, where I do live streams on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, talking about the critical reception of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, reading through the reviews of the top critics from Rotten Tomatoes, one review at a time. I have not been able to do that for a couple of weeks because things have gotten crazy in my world. So hopefully I can start that back up next week. I've gotten really slammed with some videos I need to edit, and that takes a long time. So unfortunately, I haven't had time to go live on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, but just check the channel and see when I've scheduled the streams, and you can keep up with me there.
Nice. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find me as a co-host on DCTV After Dark and the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, where we have recently recorded our Drunk Riverdale podcast. And that should be going up towards the end of this month or the beginning of the next month.
Which episode did y'all do? You don't have to spoil
I couldn't begin to spoil what we watched. I don't know. I still don't know what happened, but it was the finale of season 3, which seemed like, based on the finale of that season, just a truly wild ride.
So this is this the one where Archie fought a bear?
He talks about having fought a bear in the past.
Oh, okay.
That's something that previously happened. He does have to fight a guy dressed like a bear. I don't know. It was a little hazy through the wine. There are a lot of challenges that they have to do in the woods. There's a lot of talk about cults and black market organ harvesting.
Oh.
Not sure why so much of that happens in that town. Chad Michael Murray is there harvesting the organs. That checks out to me. It was very I don't know what's going on with that show. But it was hilarious. So we all had a couple of adult beverages, and then we watched the show with no context and just tried to figure out what was going on. One of our listeners kindly sent in some discussion questions for us to ask each other, which we did. We also had as one of our Patreon levels, we don't usually we're not live and wired like you and I are, but for our patrons we are. So we'll send out a link to our recording stream. So we had a couple people in the chat as we were recording, like asking us questions or giving us some context on what was going on. So we were like,
that's helpful.
Thank God, because we had no idea. So that should be popping up soon. So if you might not be a Legends of Tomorrow fan, maybe you don't listen to the podcast, but maybe you're a big Riverdale fan and you want to listen to 3 girls who've had like half a bottle of wine try to figure out what was going on with that show, that's the episode for you.
I'm into it, so I can't wait to hear it. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we hope that you will check out Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow and support Supergirl Comics.
McGurk, I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira.
I love that. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!